All right, we're learning the Pesachim, Daf, Kuf Yud Dalid, Amid, Beis. I'm actually going to do Kuf Tezvav, Amid Aleph, as well. Okay, here we go. So the Mishnah just told us on the bottom of Kuf Yud Dalid, Amid Aleph, that we had Chazeres for our first course. For Karpas, we had Chazeres. And then we brought more matzah, chazeres, and charoises, and tavshilin. And then we had machlekes about the charoises, about the charoises. Good morning, good day, good evening. Okay, so it says the Gemara like this: Amrei Shlokish za'isei meres mitzvahs tzrichas kavannah. The fact that we're eating chazeres twice proves that you need kavannah to be yotze mitzvah. Mitzvah tzrichas kavannah is machlekes. When you do an act that HaKadosh Baruch Hu asks you to do you need to intend on doing it to fulfill the ratzon Hashem? I'm doing this because Hashem told me to do it. That's what, if you hold mitzvah tzrichas kavannah, that when you do the act, you need to actually have in mind, I'm doing this because because it's a mitzvah. That's mitzvah tzrichas kavannah. If you hold mitzvah ain't tzrichas kavannah, that means you would hold that even if you had no intent on fulfilling the command, you still fulfill the mitzvah. So, the fact that you're eating chazeres for karpas, and then you're doing it again for mar, it means that you didn't fulfill your mitzvah the first time. Why didn't you fulfill the mitzvah the first time? Because you were eating it for karpas, not to fulfill the mitzvah. So it says Reish Lakish, you see, mitzvahs tzrichas kavannah. Kivin delay be'idan chiyuv demar hu de'achel. Since you ate it when you was not the out time to eat matzah. Here, you need one? A Gemara? You need a Gemara? Here. Since at the time there was not an obligation to eat mar, you ate it. So b'bei priyadama hu de'achalei, and all you made on it was a b'ei priyadama. So v'dilma le'echav l'mar. So perhaps either you for sure weren't, or maybe you weren't mechavan for mar because you weren't eating at the mar time. Hilkach ba'i l'mahader latbuli l'shemar. That's why you're going to have to go and eat it again for the mitzvah of marar. So it says Reish Lakish, and the fact that you're eating it twice is l'chayra araya that the first time you did not fulfill your mitzvah because you did. Why didn't you fulfill your mitzvah the first time you ate it? Because you didn't have in mind. So you see mitzvah tzrichas kavannah. That is around Kuf Yud Daled Beis. That is Reish Lakish's raya. Says the Gemara, not so fast. Not so fast. I'm sorry, I'm still in the middle of the raya. The Isak Adaylach mitzvah loy by kavannah, because if you hold that mitzvahs do not require intent, lama l'chal trei tibule. So why do you need to eat this 2 times? But tavalecha de zimna, and you already did it the first time. So the Reish Lakish is bringing a raya that mitzvah tzrichas kavannah, because why else would you eat the chazeres twice? You already fulfilled the mitzvah the first time. What's the point of eating it again? Remember, the scenario here in our Mishnah was that you had no other vegetables. You only had chazeres. You only had lettuce for mar. You didn't have karpas. You didn't have a vegetable to take for karpas. So the Mishnah says, you didn't have a vegetable to take for karpas, to take the mar twice. So, Reish Lakish says, if you're taking mar, why do it a second time? If you already did it the first time, so then you fulfilled your mitzvah of mar. Elamai must be that mitzvah tzrichas kavannah, and the first time you ate it, you didn't have in mind to be yotze your mitzvah. So maybe that's why you got to take it again and eat it at the right time. Okay, that is the Gemara's raya that mitzvahs tzrichas kavannah.
And if you ate it once and said this is both for a purpose and for moral, so that would be what would that be? That's tzrichas and kavannah.
If you hold mitzvahs ain't tzrichas kavannah, then by eating it, you fulfilled your mitzvah already. Yeah, it's not a mitzvah to do it the first time. The mitzvah to eat mar. There's only one mitzvah to eat mar. It's not a mitzvah. Nah, we'll see. It's not. It's a kadesh ishul atinekes. You're doing it to be ma'ar the kids to ask questions. That's not the mitzvah of eating ma'ar. The mitzvah to eat ma'ar, the mitzvah to eat is the ma'ar. So if you hold mitzvah shrichas kavannah, so by eating a chazeres by karpas, you didn't fulfill the mitzvah. If you hold mitzvah ain't shrichas kavannah, then eating ma'ar by karpas, you did fulfill the mitzvah. And there'd be no need to do it again. So the fact that we're doing it twice is a raya that mitzvah shrichas kavannah. That's Rish Lakish's svara. Says the Gemara, not so fast. Mimai, how do you know? Dilma la'olam mitzvahs ain't shrichas kavannah. I could tell you really that you don't need kavannah to fulfill your mitzvah. Udka amrit trei tibuli lamli. So then why are you eating it twice? Says the Gemara, in order that there should be some type of a heker, that the kid should be wondering, why are we doing this twice? And that's it. And that's the reason why we're doing it the first time. Meaning, really, you did fulfill your mitzvah. Let's take a look at the Rashbam, about 5 lines down. Dilma hakamashlan. Maybe what it's coming to teach us is in the Rashbam. It's coming to teach us that you need to dip twice. In order that the kids should ask questions. But we do lots of different things to get the kids to ask. However, but it's true, you did fulfill your obligation for Mara the first time you ate it. So now, let's hold on for a second. So now let's just make the cheshbon now. So you're telling me really you could have fulfilled your obligation the first time by you would do fulfill your obligation the first time by eating the Mara. So then we got an issue. So then why is the Mishnah then really? We should require you to find something else to eat besides chazeres. Right? Meaning we want you to eat Mara at the right time and do the Mara the right way. So you should really, if you hold mitzvahs in shrichas kavannah, we shouldn't let you eat chazeres the first time. You should have to go find something else to eat, a different yerakas. Meaning, so why did the Mishnah say a scenario of havila fun of metal v'chazeres? The Mishnah should say you should find shar yerakas. Make sure you have a different vegetable to eat for the first table. This way, you'll be able to eat Mara at the right time. Because if you eat chazaros the first time, you're ready to fulfill your mitzvah of Mara. So it says back in the Gemara, the Gemara says, so let the Mishnah tell us that you should take shar yerakas in order to do karpas. Why is the Mishnah giving us an option to use Mara for karpas? If you're going to fulfill your mitzvah of Mara by karpas, the Mishnah should tell us, make sure you have something else. You should have shar yerakas. Says the Gemara, Havamina. If the Mishnah would have just said that you have to have shar yerakas, Havami, I would have thought, Hechad the Ika shar yerakas, who would be in treitibuli? Aval chazeres lechuda loibai treitibuli. I would have thought that if you only have if you have a different vegetable, so then good, you'd be able to do 2 tibulim. You'll do first your karpas, and then later on you'll have mar. But if you only have chazeres, I would think you would only eat it once, and you wouldn't have trei tibuli. You wouldn't dip. You wouldn't do it a second time. The only time we would do a heker for the tinokas is if you have a shar yerakas. But if you didn't have shar yerakas, so then you wouldn't do it. But if you only had chazeres, then you wouldn't do 2 tibulim. You'd only have mara. Kamash malan. Therefore, the Mishnah has to come to teach us tafilu chazeres ve'inin trei tibuli. Even when you have chazeres, you should still dip twice. Meaning that you might have thought, I'm going to skip out karpas if I only have chazeres, because I'll save it for Mara. I'll save it for its right time. And therefore, you'll lose out making a heker latinakas of eating something before you start the meal. What's that karpas? We have karpas because you want to say, hey, Why are we dipping now? It's not what we normally do at the Seder. Oh, so we got the kids to ask questions. So you were thinking, you know what? If you only have chazeres, forget it. Don't have a tibul before the meal. This way you'll eat your mar and you'll fulfill the mitzvah of mar after matzah. Kamash Shulan, no, we still want you to do 2 tibulim, and you'll have mar now. You fulfill the mitzvah now, and you'll have it again later also.
It's not even a great point. The kids will ask even more. So
Now they would. Then it would be like,
what are you doing? It's a good question. I mean, eating more now, or are you eating this supposed to be for karpos? You're eating more now. Why? I can see it being even bigger question for the kids to wake up.
true, but we wouldn't want the Rashbam's lesson of the kuli high way of the mishum makeret tinakas. We're not going to take you. I would have thought you're not going to. We wouldn't want to move mar from where it's supposed to be. Right? Mar is meant to be after you eat the matzah. A matzah sumarerim. Right? We want that's where you're supposed to fulfill the mitzvah of mar.
Karpos in the beginning is just dipping. Why are we dipping?
Correct.
Why are we dipping now?
Yeah. So we wouldn't.
The kids knew they're going to dip later. I mean, why are they asking?
Yeah, because it seems like Tibo was a normal way you did, but that was part of your meal. Like you have a salad as an appetizer. Right. We didn't start the meal yet. Why are we starting? Why are we having appetizer before we started the meal?
One word to drink. One right after the other.
Right. You don't fulfill your mitzvah of Allah Seder.
So why is it not even addressing that in this context?
You fulfill your mitzvah of mar, meaning if you eat mar at night, you did the mitzvah.
Saying like it doesn't even come up as a
Because it wasn't nitkan really Allah Seder, meaning the dalek cases were nitkan in 4 places during. One was for kiddush, one is for Haggadah.
just what you were saying just before.
Correct. I'm saying that's ideal. It's not a correct. I mean, everybody would agree if you ate mar at the beginning of the meal, you'd fulfill your mitzvah. If you had kavannah to do it now, if according to our mitzvah tzrichas kavannah, if you actually had kavannah to fulfill your mitzvah of mar, then you would have fulfilled your mitzvah of mar. All right. So I would have thought though that's the having over here. That mishum hakera, I wouldn't tell you to eat mar twice. I'd rather you just eat it in the regular spot. Kamash will know that we will do a hakera latinakas even if the only thing you have is mara. Okay, so the Rish Lakish wanted to bring a raya from the mission. The fact that you're eating chazeres twice is a raya that mitzvah tzrichas kavannah. The says no, it's not a raya because it could be just teaching us that even if you only have chazeres and you fulfill the mitzvah the first time, you still do that anyway. Now, it says the Gemara v'oyid l'ma'isa we have a brisa that says mitzvahs lo tzrichas kavannah. V'oyid tanya, we learned in a brisa achlan demai. If somebody ate demai for maror, he is yaitza the mitzvah of maror. What's demai? Demai is produce that you're not sure whether chumas were taken, or I should say meisos were taken off. So the halach is that an ani is allowed to eat demai, because the emes says that right people are take off chumas and meisos. So an ani could eat demai. So if you wanted to be mafkir your nechasim and become an ani, so you'd also be able to eat demai. So then, even if you didn't do that, it's still considered a chazilei. As opposed to hevel, if you have produce that you do know you did not take off shumas and meisos, and you wanted to use that for mar, you did not fulfill your mitzvah if you ate tevel. Tezes points out that that's a big chiddush because tevel, the chiv meiser on vegetables is only midrabanan. It's not the eraisa. So take a look at the second thesis. Achal demai yatza says achal vadai layatz. If you ate vadai, meaning you ate tevel, you did not fulfill your mitzvah. Avagav demai. I'm sorry. Aval vadai. I'm sorry. But if it was vadai tevel, not just demai, then lo yatza. Avagav demaiser yerek derabanan. Even though meiser yerek is only a derabanan, because the same halacha applies by matzah. That if you do not if you eat tevel derabanan by matzah, you also don't fulfill your obligation. I hope we learn out matzah from our. So Akitzer, you so if you're achal demai, you do fulfill your obligation. The brayso continues. Achlan bilay mischaven yatza. If you ate mar without having kavannah to fulfill the mitzvah, you're a yatza. And achla l'chatzan, and if you ate it in piecemeal, you're also yatza. Meaning if you had a little bit of mar and then you had a little bit more mar, you didn't eat it at one time. You also fulfill mitzvah ubilvad shelo yisha ben achil l'chaver to yosef mekdei achilas pras. As long as you didn't wait too long between your two, half a kazesim of mar. So then it's mitzvah if it joins together and you fulfilled your obligation. But l'maisa, what you see here in this brayso is that achlan b'lei mischavin, if you ate without having kavannah, you fulfilled the mitzvah. So we have a hana that holds mitzvahs loy or lav tzrichas kavannah. Okay. Says the Gemara, that is correct, but Tanai. L'maisa it's machlokes Tanai. The Tanya we learned in the Brayso, Rabbi Yossi Omer, apa pisha tibel bechazeres, even though you already ate chazeres for karpas, mitzvah lahavi lafan of chazeres, there's still a mitzvah to bring chazeres, v'chareises, v'shnei tavshilin, and then 2 cooked foods. So you see that Rabbi Yossi holds that even though you ate chazeres for your first course, you're still going to be obligated to bring it again with chareises for the mitzvah of mar. So we have a machlokes tanoim, whether mitzvah tzrichas kavannah or lav tzrichas kavannah. In fact, the Gemara, what kind of raya is this from Rabbi Yossi? I could say the same thing I said about our Mishnah. Va'akati, still, where do you have a raya from here? Dil mokas Rabbi Yossi, mitzvah ain't tzrichas kavannah. Maybe Rabbi Yossi really holds mitzvah ain't tzrichas kavannah. The haida be'inan treiti buli, and the reason why he requires you to eat chazeres twice is keichet to have yakelotinoikos. In that way, you should have a hecker for the kids. Says the Gemara, Imkein my mitzvah. Why does he say it's a mitzvah lahavi chazeres? If you're doing it just as a hecker to have another tibul, so then there's no mitzvah involved in that. So from the fact that he says that it's a mitzvah, must be that you are not mekayim your mitzvah of mar beforehand. Okay, so we end up here with the machlokes tanoim, if mitzvah tzrichas kavannah or lav tzrichas kavannah. How do we paskin with this? So the Mishnah, the Mechaber brings 2 days. Yesh Eimer mitzvah tzrichas kavannah. The Yesh Eimer mitzvah lav tzrichas kavannah. And we paskin the lamaisa mitzvah tzrichas kavannah. But if you did a mitzvah without kavannah, for sure by mitzvah deraisa, we say mitzvah tzrichas kavannah. And if you didn't do a mitzvah with kavannah, you got to go back and do it again. But you won't make a bracha again because that will say maybe the halach is like mitzvah tzrichas kavannah. We don't want to say bracha levatala. But you would have to do the mitzvah again if you did a mitzvah without kavannah. So therefore, it is vital to before you makayim a mitzvah to have kavannah, to say that I'm doing this because Hakadosh Baruch Hu told me to do this mitzvah. That's what kavannah means. Now there are again, kavannah just means I'm doing this with the intent, like a kivun, direction. I'm doing this with the intent that Hashem told me to do this. You don't have to know the reasons for the mitzvah. You don't have to know what it means necessarily. You just got to know you're doing this because Hashem said so. There is a Chai Adam, I think, that the Bir Halacha brings down that discusses like a umdana, that there are certain things like why else would you be doing this if it wasn't a mitzvah? So like putting on your tefillin in the morning, right? Even if you didn't explicitly say, I'm doing this because Hashem told me to do this, Lamai said, why else would you be doing that? So he holds that works. At least b'diavad. And you'll be yetz to the mitzvah. When there's an umna, I can't really explain why else would you be doing what you were doing. But of course,
So we're saying engaging in the action without a bracha. Because if you're saying the bracha itself right beforehand.
yeah, I mean, again, yeah. If you're making a bracha on something, that would be like the l'shem yichud. Correct.
That's why we should say any muchad l'zumah.
Correct. That's why there is a need to say that. Correct. Any muchazum l'kayim mitzvah say, or the mitzvah that you're doing, you should then at least you have kavannah, you know that you're doing it. But you are correct. If you're making a bracha on it, the bracha would help that out. Okay, that's mitzvah tzrichas kavannah. Says the Gemara weiter. The Mishnah and this Brisa both mentioned shnei tavshilin, 2 cooked items. So says the Gemara, my shnei tavshilin, what are these 2 cooked items? Says the Gemara, we have a few shittas here and what you got to use. Amar Rav Huna, silka ve'areza. He says you have beets or spinach, and areza is rice. That's what Rav Huna says. Now it's a machlek. It's Rav Huna saying you can even use that, or you should use that. Meaning, he would agree. Of course, you could use basar or some other type of tavshil, and he's saying you can even use silka, beets, or spinach and rice. Others say no. He doesn't want you to use meat at all. He doesn't want there to be any shemetz of basar kachim lachutz. That this has a kedusha to it. So he prefers that you don't use meat. 2 ways to go with Rav Huna. Now, Rava have a mahadra silka va'areza. He would specifically go out of his way to find silka and areza for his shnei tavshilin, hoil v'naflik mipuvim to Rav Huna, because that's what Rav Huna said. So that again, you can go this either way. If Rav Huna was saying a kula, that you could even use silka va'areza. So even though it was a kula, wanted to fulfill it because that's what Rav Huna said you should use. So he wanted to fulfill the words of Rav Huna. If it was a chumrah, so then it makes all sense, more sense. Okay. Amar Rav Ashi, Shema mina de Rav Huna lesle dechayish lahadirav Yechanan ben Nuri. It's clear from here that Rav Huna could care less about where Rav Yechanan ben Nuri held. What is Rav Yechanan ben Nuri? Held the Tani and then Brisa. Rav Yechanan ben Nuri, Aimer, Oireis min daganu. Rabbi Yechanan ben Nuri held that rice is a type of a grain. He would say that if you ate that on Pesach, you'd be chayiv. And you've had rice matzah, you fulfill your mitzvah. Rav Huna, we clearly do not paskin like Rabbi Yechanan ben Nuri, and the question is why not? L'maisa, it seems to ferment. It seems like it looks like chametz. So the Taisus here, the second in the very wide lines of Taisus, he says less dechash l'Rabbi Yechanan ben Nuri v'taim l'dechimutz elidei sirchein. That's what the Gemara says. What chametz, what orez does, rice does, it doesn't ferment. It's like us the bali dechimutz rather than l'dei sirchein. It's like spoiled or rotted, or it's not chimutz. It's not fermenting well. That's it's a different, I guess, process or it's not chimutz. It's not good. Okay. Well, chimutz meaning the fermentation. When you take rice and you let it sit, so what happens to it? So I guess it goes through some chemical reaction. And do you view that as chimutz, like you would with grain, like wheat, when you let it sit, so it starts to ferment and turn into dough, like a what do they call it? I don't know, like a rice. It starts turning into chametz. That process is called chimutz, as opposed to if you leave out some food, it starts to rot. We don't call that chimutz. We call that sirchein. That's going bad.
I guess what it produces is alcohol. Maybe that's what they want to have.
What?
The chumutz.
No, chumutz is again for the question is what's going on when you leave rice out? You mix rice with water and you leave it out. Rice flour. Is that process called chimutz, fermentation, which is good, which would be would be called the dagan? That would be called the grain, or is it not that? Right? I would imagine. I don't know exactly, but I imagine it has. I don't know. I'm gonna leave it out. I don't know. But that's machlekes Rabbi Yechanan ben Nuri, how we view ores and the fermentation that it goes through, and that'll depend on whether it's considered a dagan, and it'll be considered chametz, or it's not. Once we're on this topic, so we get into here the halach of kitnius, because there was a minute there people said, well, if Gemara clearly says you're allowed to have rice, it's mamish from a first Gemara. We don't hold like Rabbi Yechanan ben Nuri, but people were machmir that it looks similar to dough. It looks similar to dagan, even though it's technically a different process. It looks similar, and you can make bread out of it. So the Ashkenazim basically were machmir on orez. Okay, Zog the Gemara weiter. Chizkiya Amar, afilu dagu beitza she'olav. If you would make a dish, a fish dish, and that fish dish, you make fish with eggs, and that was like one dish, so that would be good enough. And the chiddush is that even though it's one tavshil, it's really like one cooked food. It's fish and eggs, but that is good. That would be considered shnei tavshilin. If Yosef Amar tzarich shnei mini basar. Now he says you need to have two types of meat. Echad zecher lePesach, ve'echad zecher lechagiga. One as a remembrance of the Pesach, and one as a remembrance of the Chagiga. Ravina says you can even have a garmo bishula. You can either have some meat with its broth to fulfill your mitzvah. Now take a look at the Tosfos, Shnei mine basar, third line down in the white lines. Pirush Rabbeinu Chanana, these two types of meat, Pirush Rach, Sli, Zeichel Pesach, you should roast one of them as a Zeichel to the Pesach, umevushal, and you should have a cooked one, Zeichel Lechagiga. V'lei Nehira, Tosfos does not like this. The Kaimon Kebentema, he says, we pass like Bentema, then Chagiga, Nachal Salatzli, the Chagiga also has to be roasted. The Masnitzin asks the Kavasei, Lakach Nir, the Travaimu V'shal and Faket, you should have both of them cooked, like it says, Shnei tavshilin. There should be two cooked items, and don't roast them, probably because we don't want it to look like a carbon pesach or a carbon. So therefore, it's best to cook them and don't have anything roasted. Rabbeinu Chananel, and that's our minhag, is that we have a zeraya, a zecher to the zeraya netuya, which would we roast, and then we have an egg, which is a zecher to the chagiga, because we don't hold like bentema. We hold that does not have to be roasted; it could be cooked, and we have an egg, probably as a sign of avelus, because we don't have a Beis Hamikdash, so we have an egg as a zecher to like an ovel that eats eggs that are round.
This is also roasted. Don't we basically like
Roasting it, yeah.
People do, I guess. Some people do. You roast the egg. Maybe we roast. Or you cook it and then roast it. Yeah, get it roasted up. All right. That is Shnei tavshilin.
When they first started eating it, salt would be
Right, we're eating that egg though.
Yeah.
We eat that egg. It was another reason why we had an egg. I forgot why. Yeah, I forgot another reason they brought down why we had an egg. All right. Now the next Tosfos talks about what do you do on a when let's say what about Keshachal Yudal V'Yes B'Shabbos? When Erev Pesach occurs on Shabbos, so what do you do with your you didn't bring a chagiga that day? Ain't tzarich rak bishul echad. L'chari, you only need to have one cooked food. You only need to have one of them. The chagiga shidalad ain't in the echad Shabbos. You wouldn't bring a chagiga on Shabbos, so that means you'd only have one. Miyu, however, I'm gonna read the Mekom Kamein L'Chalak. It's okay. You can still do it. You know why? We'd rather you do it. The Dami L'Chayva in my Yurim Menachem Lasses. People are gonna think that this is like a chiyuv of a zecher to the chagiga. They're gonna think your mama should have a chagiga if you get too official about it. So therefore, he doesn't like that. The Gam Yeshlochash Shalom Yasu B'Shar Pesachim. Maybe next year you forget to do it. The ancient chashashim and oisim, and it's okay if we do it. Al v'gad b'lei tzarich. The lekol mecha shema yivna beis hamikdash. What are you concerned about? Maybe they're going to build the Beis Hamikdash, and people are going to say, "Oh, well, last year we had an egg on our Seder plate, so it must be that you're allowed to bring a chagiga on Yom Tov, on Shabbos." Nah, that's too far of chashash. Listen to this one. The Hashem in Akriva b'Shabbos, the Akrava b'Sayil is reason. Hakrava is given over to the Kahanim, who is reason. Ukashiyivna Moshe v'Aaron yeimanu. Tosfos is of the opinion that when the Beis Hamikdash, third Beis Hamikdash comes back, it'll already be Tchias HaMesim. Moshe and Aaron will be with us. But like Lamiti, you have to be concerned. But if someone doesn't want to make do, you could. I do want to point out, I mean, that's a big zach that they just said there. You know, the Rambam writes, it doesn't seem like that. We'll have a base of English before Tchias HaMesim. And he says that the base of English is going to have a kapan, and I will be there. Interesting. Another point, you know, in the Nutzach of Asher Ga'alanu, we say min hazvachim or min apsachim. Right? And then it says, min apsachim or min hazvachim. Has the opposite. So that's, I think that has to do with this Indian. That min apsachim, min hazvachim. Normally you would have min hazvachim, min apsachim. First you'd eat the shlamim, and then you'd eat the Karim Pesach, because the Karim Pesach is nachal al seva. The other nusach is for when it's Motzei Shabbos, because then you wouldn't have the zvachim first, because you couldn't bring them on Shabbos. So you would eat min apsachim, and min hazvachim would be for tomorrow. That's how you would switch the order. Alrighty.
If you just have the morning, you have the meal.
What'd you eat?
You eat at the meal.
No, I guess.
Beets.
I guess maybe you'd eat more of the Karim Pesach. I don't know. But that sort of goes into our next sugi. If you can, let's see that. Okay. Says the Gemara. This is an interesting shayla. Pshita. We're about 2, 4, 7 lines up from the bottom. Pshita. If you have other vegetables for karpas, so then mevarach hashar yirakas ber priyadama. You'll make a ber priyadama on your shar yirakas, v'achel, and then you'll eat. And then when you get up tomorrow, you make al chilas mar, v'achel, and you'll eat. And you don't have to make another ber priyadama. Why do you have to make another ber priyadama? Because either the ber priyadama you said on your karpas helps you, or because you're having a ber priyadama, you already had matzah, and the matzah patters your appetizer, so it'll patter your mar. Now that's all fine and dandy, but what happens? What if you only have lettuce? So you only have one vegetable you're going to be using for kapers and for mar. So what should you do? What's the halacha? So first you eat, you make a bracha b'redam on the mar, and you eat it. And then at the end, when you get up to mar, then you eat it again, but this time you make an alachilas mar. All right, that sounds good. Taisus points out on the bottom of the page that Rav Huna holds like Rish Lakish, the buy kavannah, that you need kavannah. The afilu is leishayirakas, avad b'mar shnei tibuli, and even if you have other vegetables, you could still use mar, and you do 2 tibulim, because the first time you're doing it, you're not yesed a mitzvah, so you're fine. So you make bar paradama, and then you eat mar, and you make achilas mar. Now listen to this one, Maskov Rav Chizda. Maskov Rav Chizda. La'achar shamili kreisa heimena. You've been eating mar a ganze nacht. Shamili kreisa heimena. You filled up your stomach with it. Now you're going to make an alachilas mar? That just looks so weird.
What exactly is going on? You had the not all night.
You had karpas. Yeah, it means you already ate mar, right? And now you're eating mar again, and now you're gonna make an alachilas mar. You've been eating mar already. That's so odd. You ate mar, now you're eating. I understand you're not makayim your mitzvah the first time, but you're eating mar. So then you didn't make a bracha of alachilas mar, and now you come to mar at the table after the pas, the matzah, and now you're going to make an achilas mar. Eating mar, you ate mar already. So he's saying that's odd. So he tells them, so El Amar of Chizda, okay. Now El Amar of Chizda, so Chizda says, Me'ikar mevarach l'abay priyadama, v'al achilas mar. You make both brachas, v'achal, and you eat it. Ulebesayf achal achilas chasa beloy bracha, and then you'll eat it again after mar, and then you don't make the bracha of al achilas mar. Now this is fascinating because now you're making the b'rei priyadama and al achilas mar in the beginning by karpas, but you don't fulfill your mitzvah with that mar. You're only get and you're going to eat maror again after matzah, and this time you eat it without making any brachas. You just eat it.
Sounds worse.
In what way?
Before you're making a dama for the karpas version of the chazana, and then later on, when you're doing it in its quote unquote appropriate time, and you're doing you're eating it again, and you're making your alachas mar.
No, you don't. You're saying you don't make an achilas mar there.
Meaning,
You like Rav Huna's better.
now we're saying make a hadama, make a maror. You're gonna eat it right then because you're eating it for karpas purposes. You're going to eat it in the time frame for maror, yet not say any bracha because you already made the bracha on maror.
Right. I mean, his issue is that you could fulfill your mitzvah earlier if you want, but it's odd to be doing the mitzvah and not making the bracha on the mitzvah.
Yeah, but the whole point is if we're saying mitzvah then and therefore so hold off on saying your alafis mar until you're actually doing.
And the question would be, did you fulfill your mitzvah with the first one?
Before.
Correct. According to Rav Chisda, have you fulfilled? If you made the bracha al achilas mar and you ate the mar, it'd be very hard to say you didn't fulfill the mitzvah.
Well, it's gonna be hard to say you didn't fulfill the mitzvah if you made hadama and then a mar right then and there.
That's what I'm saying. According to Rav Chisda, that's saying that you are making a hadama and an achilas mar and eating it in the place for karpas. It's hard to say you didn't fulfill the mitzvah. And then you probably had kavannah, right? You probably did. And he said it could be, but you'll do it again. And the ikar time you're going to fulfill the mitzvah is going to be the second time. Taisus brings a great tzushtel to this. There's another place we do something like this also. That is when we blow the shofar. If you look in Taisus, the second line down in the skinny lines. You make a bracha according to Rav Chisda al achilas mar on the first one by karpas. Afagav the ikar mitzvahs mar loy nafik ebel b'tibul sheni achar matzah. Even though the ikar mitzvah, meaning he's masking you did a mitzvah, but the ikar mitzvahs mar loy nafik ebel b'tibul sheni achar matzah. My elas ha bracha shebirach b'tibul rishon b'tibul sheni. The bracha you made for the first tibul, which is not, will help you for the second one. Because the Lamaisa, you did fulfill the mitzvah. You ate mar then. So you did the mitzvah. So the bracha worked. But even though the ikar mitzvah is going to be later on, which is fascinating. But where else do we do this? Says Taisus, Midi dehava abircha shofar. We do the same thing by shofar. When is the ikar mitzvah shofar? I'll say to our brachas during Shemona Esrei, during Chazar Zashatz. When do we make the brachas? Before, by the Tekiyas to Miyushav. So he says, Midav bracha sheva the mevarach atkiyas to yeshiva. We make the bracha on the Tekiyas when we're sitting down, meaning before Shemona Esrei. Umay Ella's bracha the Tekiyas shebamida, and the bracha helps with the Tekiyas that we do when we're by Chazar Zashatz. Shem ikar, because those are the essential mitzvah. V'nasas al seder brachas. That's what you do. I'll say Rab Brachas. So Taisus says an amazing thing. He says, "I'm not. The get of this is interesting. It's got to be you're getting the mitzvah. You're making the bracha and you ate the maror, right? Did you fulfill the mitzvah of maror? I gotta say so, but it's not the ikar mitzvah of maror. For instance, let's say somebody, I don't know, they left the Suda and they ran out on a tolokol, right? So does he have to eat maror again? Did he fulfill his mitzvah of maror? If you heard the Tekiyas Lemiyush, if you didn't fulfill the mitzvah, you did, but it's not the ikar mitzvah. The ikar mitzvah is ala seder. So we're not going to require you to make another bracha. No, it's not l'chatchila b'diavad. The ikar mitzvah is to do it with the by the appropriate time, and meaning that's the ikar mitzvah. That's
you already fulfilled your obligation. So you it's almost like you've uprooted your ability to do the mitzvah in the zman of the ikar mitzvah because you ruined that. How am I getting credit for the mitzvah in Bisman HaMitzvah, the Iker times, when I've already fulfilled the mitzvah. Like, you can't, I did it already.
Yeah, you did it partially. I mean, you did it. No, you definitely did the mitzvah, but you didn't do the ikar. It's interesting. I don't have a good shot in it. But I'll be more 2 points. Number one is that Taisus holds, being that we're at Susham Purim, so we'll say a little Purim raid, that we read the Megillah twice. We read the Megillah at night and we read it again by day, which is the ikar mitzvah of Megillah. Taisus says the Megillah you read by day is the ikar mitzvah of Megillah. The ikar. He said just like the Suda, you have a Suda at night, you don't fulfill your mitzvah, you have to have the ikar Suda is by day. So the ikar reading of the Megillah is by day. Taisus says that therefore you're allowed to say Shachiyanu again. Even though you say Shachiyanu at night, right? You can still say it again because you haven't fulfilled the ikar mitzvah of Kriyas Megillah. So you're allowed to make the bracha on the ikar mitzvah. You can make the Shachiyanu again because now you're fulfilling the ikar mitzvah.
Why do we make a point of when we say the Shachiyanu by day to say, have in mind, the Shachiyanu should be in mind?
Maybe it's because the Rambam, first of all, we do want it to be, we want it to be on the other mitzvah. Yeah.
Right, but that's normally how it almost seems as if you're specifically calling out the mitzvah.
Right.
That's the reason the Shachiyanu.
Yeah, maybe not. The Rambam holds that you don't say it by day. So maybe we're doing it, to be a Hishita.
We don't say what?
Shachiyanu by day. But my nakuda I'm making is first of all we find this concept in a third place, right? That you have a mitzvah and the ikar mitzvah. He has it by maror. If you're eating karpas as maror, you fulfill the mitzvah, but the ikar mitzvah is al seder. By tkiyas, you have tkiyas the miyushav and tkiyas the umad. The ikar is seder, and he says that the mitzvah you do for one by the temple the mitzvah, it helps you for the ikar mitzvah. And the third nakuda is. The third place we're having this is by Megillah Esther, where there the ikar mitzvah is by day, and he says that there we do allow you to make a shachiyanu again for the ikar mitzvah, right? Which would mean that I guess if there was some type of a hefsek here, you don't really mean the achilas, the bracha you made in the beginning of the Seder is going to help you for the end of the Seder. But if there was some type of a hefsek in the middle, would you be allowed to make the bracha again? I wonder. Could you make an al achilas mar? Let's say, you left the Seder. There's a shinei makom, right? From your achilas mar in the beginning of the Seder. From you only had chazeres, so you made an avdama and an achilas mar at the beginning of the Seder, right? And then I don't know, you left. You had to go out, and then you came back. You made a shinei makom. Would the Taisa say you should make a bracha again al achilas mar? Because now you're fulfilling the ikar mitzvah. That's what I'm wondering. And I'm saying, just like he says, you're allowed to say Shachiyanu by Megillah, by daytime again, because now you're fulfilling the ikar mitzvah. So I wonder if he would allow you to say the bracha again of Achilas Mar if there was some type of a hefsek. I wonder. Okay, let's go weiter in the Gemara. We got some more to talk about here. Says the Gemara, we are 5 lines down, 2, 4, 5. Basuria, Avdi Rav Huna. In Syria, they would do like Rav Huna, that they would only say the al achilas mar in the correct place, not in the beginning of the Seder. Rav Sheish is brother of Yeshua of Rav Chisda. The Hilchasa Kavase to Rav Chisda. The halacha actually follows Rav Chisda, and you should only make the you would make the al achilas mar in the beginning of the Seder. Okay, Rav Achabe Derava Mahadar Ashar Yerakas. So he was smart. He would look for a fukin nefshim plukta, so he wouldn't have to deal with this machlekes. He went and would found. He would make sure to have karpas, and that's what we do. Okay, great. Amar Ravina, Amar Li Rav Meshash. For the Ber Pri Adam, we have in mind for the mar. So that's an interesting shayla. If you have to have that in mind, does it help to have it in mind? We saw it, right? You have such a hapstik with in between. So yesh imim that you should have it in mind, and therefore, according to that,
I think everyone says you should have it in mind. I think the ones who say you don't have to.
It's a machlekes if it helps.
Have it in mind. It does. It doesn't. It's not.
It's a machlekes if it helps. 2 points here. Number one, if you hold that it's too long, if there's a hefsek, so then you'd have to have a break. You'd have to make a brain of fashis. on your karpas, right? If you hold that there's a hefsek, right? So Ber Dama that you said at the beginning of the meal does not work for mar.
Well, you wouldn't be saying bar anyway. That's why you don't need.
Well, that's what's like. There's one sheet that holds you have to have a shir kazayis, and it works. That's number one. So if you hold that you have to have a kazayis because it's an achila, so every time achila you need to have a kazayis. So then does that Ber Dama work for your maror? If it does, fantastic. If you need it to. If it doesn't, because it's too long, you'd be required to make a bread of fashas because you had a kazayis. If you hold that the Ber Dama does help you for your maror, but then l'char it's not considered a hefsek. So then you would be able to eat a kazayis, and you would same way it's not a hefsek for your maror you can have later. It wouldn't require a brain of fashas. It wouldn't require a brain of fashas either. So those are two opinions. So one opinion is that the Ber Dama you're saying now is you need that to work for your you need that for your maror. The other opinion is that the pasta you're eating patters your vegetables, your salad, because this is what you're having as part of your meal. So you don't need to make a Ber Dama on it. It's as part of your meal. So so what we do is some people they have less than a kazayis because they don't want to go into a savik bracha, so they have to make a bread and fashos. They also have in mind that the Ber Dama should work just in case you hold that the maror that you're eating is not pattered by your bread, and we do what we can. Okay, so we do all of them. I'm gonna leave Mashashi Breder of Nasan. Now we get into another shayla. The shayla is like this. This is called do mitzvahs mevatlitz each other. If we want when you eat matzah that you should taste your matzah. So Ravina said, Rav Mishashia Breder of Nasan told me in the name of Hillel. This Hillel was not Hillel Hazakin, but rather Hillel and Amira. And he said Mishmeit de Gemara. He said this over in the name of Gemara means in the name of the Talmidim of the yeshiva that said over from this. It is like known information. Loi nichrach inish matzah umaror b'hadei hadadi. A person should not eat matzah and maror together. V'nechel mishum desvir lan, because they held matzah bizman hazeh de'iraisa, umaror derabanan. Matzah nowadays is still mitzvah deraisa. Maror is only mitzvah derabanan. V'asi maror derabanan umevat le'lamatzah deraisa. The maror that you're eating, which is only derabanan, the taste of that will be mevatel, will drown out the taste of your matzah. And therefore you should not eat them together. That's called mitzvahs mevatle zu. So if they were both da'iraisa, that's fine. If they are both derabanan, that's fine. But now that they're one's deraisa, one's derabanan, so the tam derabanan, the tam of your maror, is going to mess up your tam of your matzah, which is deraisa. If you should not eat them together. And even according to one that says that mitzvahs don't negate each other. As zu hanimiu deraisa v'deraisa derabanan. I will deraisa v'derabanan, but a deraisa and a derabanan, asi derabanan v'atla deraisa, the derabanan will be mevatel, will negate the mitzvah deraisa that you're trying to fulfill, and therefore you should not do them together. Well, correct. It's like tomorrow. Man Tana, the Shamad mitzvahs ain't about lezuzu. Who is the Tana who holds that mitzvahs do not negate each other? That's Hillel. That's Hillel Azakin. The Tani learned in a brisa. Amr Laval Hillel. Shayakorchem bevasachas. Hillel would make a sandwich of them together. And he would eat them. Shenemar matzahs umareirim yeichluhu. He would eat the matzahs and maror together. The shayla, what exactly he ate in his sandwich? Was it just the matzah and maror, or was it the matzah, maror, and the korban pesach? Some hold that it was just the matzah and maror because if you would put you can't swallow three kazesim. Most you could swallow is two kazesim. So if you wanted to have the matzah, maror, and the pesach at the same time, might be too much. So something like that. If you were you're chewing, you're eating, you'd want to swallow it because if you get very from you want to swallow it. I don't know, but that's what he would. But he let you clearly that you could eat them together if it's the matzah and the mar or the matzah pesach and the mar because they're all in is mitzvah deraisa, so they're not mevatel each other.
But it's done after eating them each separately.
Well, for now, it sounds like Hill didn't do that. Hill ate everything together.
Oh, I came time for Mara and matzah Mara. So he made him. He didn't make a separate broccoli. He made a matzah. He made one big sandwich.
So it seems like what he may have done was eat. He would start his meal on matzah ashira. So he'd make a hamaitzi on matzah ashira.
The beginning of the Seder.
On the beginning by maitzi matzah. By maitzi meaning he would start his meal with matzah ashira, because he'd have to eat the pesach al aseva. So if he was eating that together with his matzah and his maror, and he fulfilled the mitzvah of matzah, maror, and pesach together, so at the beginning of the meal he would have matzah ashira, and then he'd have his shulchan aruch. Then for Afikaimin, he would have matzah, maror, and pesach.
So, he wouldn't start there. He would start with matzah, but
You have to have a suda on Pesach.
Yeah.
So the suda had to be on bread. So you'd have bread on matzah. So you'd have, but he didn't want to fulfill his mitzvah then. So then he would have matzah ashira to have the suda. And then he'd have his shulchan aruch, and then he would eat that. He'd eat matzah, maror, and pesach together. But clearly Hill holds that mitzvahs are not mevatel each other because you can eat them all together. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Cholkan alav chaver val Hill. His friends argued on him. The tiny learned in a brisa. You might think that you should eat them all together. Tamalemer. So the pasuk tells us, "Amatzas ureimim yechluhu, afilu zebifnei atzmei v'zebifnei atzmei." Yechluhu, he dashed. It should have just said in the pasuk yechlu. You should eat it because it's referring to the Pesach. What's yechluhu means you should eat them. Each one you can eat separately. So the word afilu is a little bit off because afilu sounds like you can even eat them together, and you can eat them together, and you can even eat them one at a time. Maskul Ravashi, Achi Maya Afilu. What are you saying, Afilu? Alamar Vashi Haitana Hakiktan. This is what he meant to say. I might think you only fulfill your obligation if you put them together. You can eat them one at a time. Now, we don't have a clear guideline of the halachas like Hill or the Rabbanan. So this is what we do. Mevarech al achilas matzah. First make al achilas matzah v'achel and eat matzah. V'hada mevarech al achilas maror v'achel. Then make an al achilas maror and eat the maror. V'hada achel matzah v'chasa b'adei adadi v'lei bracha. Then eat the matzah and the chasa, the maror, together without a bracha. And that you do zecher l'mikdash kihilel, as a remembrance of how Hillel we used to eat a sandwich in the times of the Beis Hamikdash.
In terms of the Beis Hamikdash, we started with the sandwich. We started with the sandwich.
No,
The meal was the sandwich.
I'm saying that. I'm saying you would start with something else.
But that's not what he says here. Does it?
Where?
Yeah, what you said, what the Hillel was doing in terms of Beis Hamikdash.
Well, to fulfill his mitzvah, he would eat them together. But I don't know if he would eat that. That's not how he started his meal. He would start his meal. I mean, this is talking about how you're fulfilling the mitzvahs.
Mitzvah eating matzah and maror yokluhu.
Right, so that was with the Karban Pesach. So I have to assume that was at the end of the meal. Because the Karban Pesach was Nachal al Haseva, when you already ate your meal. It was Afikomen. So if he fulfilled it, that's he did at the end of the meal, I think. That's what we're going on. Then just the machlokes if he had Pesach in his sandwich or he ate the Pesach separately. That's the thing. Machlikas Rambam says he did not eat it together, and maybe others hold that he did eat it together. Okay. I will tell you one thing. I remember hearing this from Herschel Schachter years ago. He gave a shir in Shari Tefillah for Pesach. It was a big handle with chrein. So having chrain's an issue because he felt that if you're gonna, many people, what do? They take some chasa, they take the maror, the lettuce, and they put some horseradish on it, and they eat it together. So he says, 1 second, is this horseradish, is this maror or not maror? So he was of the opinion that horseradish is not tamcha, is not one of the chametz, is not one of the 5 types of maror. And it's a suffix, maybe it is, maybe, but he was assuming it's not. So he said, if you're going to put that onto your chasa, so then it's asi horseradish umevatel maror. You bring mevatel the tam maror. So he was not a fan of that. The minhag is definitely to do. That's what we do. We hold that tamcha is maror, I think, and there's definitely one of the types of maror, and that's what we do. The shayla though is what about charesis? How do you have charesis on there? Isn't charesis mevatalit? How do you have charesis? If you hold charesis is a mitzvah, so then at least nowadays, if now that it's 2 mitzvah derabbanans, right? So that l'chayr would be okay. But back in the day, when maror was deraisa, so how could you be metabolit into charesis, which is only derabbanan? Maybe that's why they wiped it off. Maybe that's why it was nitkan. That's why it was supposed to be. All right. Food for thought. Have a wonderful evening. We'll see you. Tomorrow night we got to discuss here for a second. Tomorrow night is over my